Back at you, like I said, third session in a row on the Halifax Stadium situation update. September 18th, 2025, end of the summer. Summer officially ends September 21st, and here we are. So I'm going to give you some insight of what I've learned and what I've heard and so forth in relation to the Halifax Stadium situation. Still alive, but not alive for the CFL. And I'll explain to you why and how political it is, and how terrible it is for our fast-growing city of 550,000 people now and growing. And we have a 40-year-old Halifax Metro Center that holds 11,000 people, and because of the radical leftist councillors, and there's just as many women, a little, actually, I think one more than men, or two more, and I have nothing against women, but they're radical leftist liberals, like maybe just one that's not, that's a conservative, that's got a brain, and a couple men, that's about it. Maybe just one. So here we are, and this and a radical leftist Mayor Savage that's in with Derek Martin and his CPL soccer team, like all the radical leftist councils are. So what they did is they, you know, like it's all like liberal driven, all this, because they're all liberals, radical leftist liberals down there. 95% of them or more. So here's the deal. So what they did, they hired all these numerous, or just maybe one or two groups, I don't know, like consultants, radical leftist liberal consultant companies. And it's all a scam. It's all tied in with Derek Martin's CPL soccer team, where he's playing at the Halifax Wanderers grounds. I'll get into the particulars about the Halifax Wanderers grounds and what's involved there. Even building a tiny little Mickey Mouse Derek Martin special, you know, and how political it is in the Halifax Wanderers grounds. Because you have a heritage group wanting to threaten them if they build a stadium for Derek Martin, and of course the radical leftist Halifax City Councils and Fillmore, who's one of them, that's what they want to do. Because Derek Martin is a con man and he's a radical leftist liberals, and then you got the South End where it's the Halifax Wanderers. Halifax Wanderers grounds is right across from the famous Halifax Public Gardens, and there's only two or three in the world. And this is what's happening. And you have all the elite, like radical leftist liberals down in the South End, a lot of them too. CBC's down there, you know. Well, actually they're close. They used to be down east, but they're up now closer to me in the West End. But anyway, so it's really bad what's going on, and I'll get into the particulars now and give you some detail. There was a meeting. There was a meeting held just recently, a couple of weeks ago, and these radical leftist liberal company consultants, because that's what they are, by the way. And they're all CFL haters and knockers. So basically, they sent them away to bring in 3 different proposals to build Derek Martin's special little Mickey Mouse 8,500 seat, perfectly for him and just for him, for his CPL soccer team. When Edmonton went out of business, they had a CFL, they got a CFL franchise. They've had for 100 years, 100 years now. They're called the Elks, but I want them to go back to the Eskimos name. Okay, that was political too. But anyway, CPL soccer team in Edmonton went down the second year, I believe. Edmonton's going to fold because they're owned by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers owner, and the CEO, Wayne Miller, said that they get less than 2,000 people. They're not going to be around, so they're going to fold too. And York was up for sale, and there's others going to be up for sale, and they're in financial trouble. They're in shaky grounds financially, big time. Now Halifax are doing better this year than they did last year because they have a team on the top. You know, they're right up there with Calgary in the top, one of the better teams in the CPL. But like, and same with there's a new women's soccer team playing in the Halifax Wanderers, still got the tie. I think they barely won one game, and they're no good. They're not going to last too. There's a team playing in Calgary. Manning Stadium, the Calgary St. Peter's play too. They're not going to last. The league is not going to last, and the CPL league is not going to last. It's going to fall. It'll never ever survive. It's been around for 4 or 5 years now, but it's not going to make it. So Derek Martin was averaging probably 3,000, 4,000 last year. He's maybe averaging 5 this year or so. He says 6, but that's bullshit, right? So he wants this prefabricated Mickey Mouse, little tiny, modular Derek Martin special CPL soccer stadium that only seats 8,500. And this is an outdoor stadium. Halifax doesn't have a stadium. Imagine when the Metro Center, that's 40 years old, holds 11,000, and it's an indoor arena. Do you really get this? No, I sent a letter to Premier Houston because they're after the sleazebags down at City Council, the City Council sleazebags, and the mayor, sleazebag mayor, Fillmore, leftists. They're trying to suck in. That's why I sent Premier Houston a letter. He's a conservative. He has a supermajority government, right? And he's not going to give more power as a Fillmore because he's a radical leftist. So that's why. He should have more power, but because he's a radical leftist liberal. He had a campaign elbows up for Carney. Like, he's great. The guy, look, you want to see our city. It's a cesspool of druggies and drug encampments, and no justice system, and no police stand down. You never see a police car. The whole city's destroyed. They've destroyed it. And, you know, it's unbelievable that they get away with it. Basically almost murder. They can do anything. They give them everything, including drugs, and they just destroy our city. The crime is insane. The Halifax is a criminal hole right now. I hate to say it, and it's not safe to walk or drive a car, or certainly not walk in the park. It's unbelievable. I'm so ashamed to be a Canadian and a Haligonian. I'm ashamed. I really am. It's terrible. But anyway, so this is why you're going to get when you're going to get in a so-called Mickey Mouse little Derek Martin special stadium in Halifax. This is the main reason. That's why I brought this all up. It's the main reason. Because the whole city's loaded. This beautiful city in a peninsula, second natural deepest harbor in the world, the whole city is loaded with criminal graffiti. Every day, more and more and more, everywhere. And I mean, massive amount, and they don't do nothing about it. Nothing. Because they promote crime, the Liberals. That's what they do. With their judges and crooked defensive lawyer donors, right? But anyway, getting back to the stadium, so they had a meeting, they brought these radical leftist consultants in, and they had 3 different proposals. Like, they had one where because the lancers, the horses lancers that are there, they have one building and they have a stable, like inside and outside for the horses, fenced in, and now they want to expand their customer base. They want to expand. They want not only one but 2 more arenas. Imagine, imagine that. And they want they want to expand where they have. Outside, they have a bigger area to get more lancers, you know, more horses, everything. The lawn bowling that's been there forever at the Halifax Wanderers too. They want to be expand, and of course Derek Martin, which is Derek Martin special, right? Little Mickey Mouse, little 8,500 CPL soccer stadium for himself and his team. The problem where he pays very little rent. He only pays $1,200. Imagine. Pays $1,200 a month rent, that's all he pays. There. No wonder he's doing well. So anyway, so they come up with 3 proposals, these radical leftist consultants that they hired with our money, leftists, and they said, okay, well, here's one proposal for 2 new buildings for the arenas, for buildings for the horses, for the Lancers, and another, I guess, another fenced area or bigger fenced area, and they'd have to use Houston's land that he owns, Premier Houston, Nova Scotia land at the Maritime Museum. I sent a letter, I'll tell you what else I put in that, to Premier Houston, to not to give it to him, unless a real CFL model stadium is built at the Halifax Wanderers. And that's not going to happen, because it's all, like I said, leftist, liberal driven. It's unbelievable. So what's going to happen there? So they never even mentioned like to do that, to relocate the Lancers where they should be. If they want all that, they need to be relocated. Same with lawn bowling. Relocate them, same thing. And build a real model. That's what I told Premier Houston, CFL model, multi-purpose stadium. Okay? Okay, community multi-purpose CFL model, 24,000, modestly priced, seat, permanent stadium, 120 to 140 million to 150. Something like the World Trade Center deal. Get all 3 levels of government involved, the city, the province, Nova Scotia government, and the feds, right? And it can happen. The World Trade Center happened like that. It can happen. And that's what we need, and expandable to 30,000 plus to hold a Grey Cup game in Halifax, the first ever stage in Atlantic Canada, in our fast-growing capital city, and in Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada. First ever, it would be huge. It would be the biggest single event ever staged in our capital city and in Atlantic Canada, in Halifax and in Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada. The biggest event ever staged. And economically, the economic spin-offs would probably be up to 75 million. Because you know why? You could sell that out 3 times. Because that's what Hamilton's was. Close to 73, 74 million economic spin-offs. So what they're doing is proposing, like one councillor tried to say we need a CFL model stadium like Ottawa. We need, or this one other person, only 2, said we need a newer model like Montreal's, you know. But you need something somewhat more expandable to 30,000 plus for a Grey Cup game, because you can't have CFL new owner that apparently, far and large, he said, he's still active, and he's got deep pockets, and he's in Halifax. I think it's the Steel Group, and he wants a 10th CFL franchise, but you need a stadium to play in, right? So no CFL owner is going to invest in a CFL team unless they have a facility that they have a Grey Cup game in. So it's got to be 24,000 permanent seats, with all the necessary amenities to be for the stadium to be viable and successful, and expandable temporarily to 30,000 plus for a Grey Cup game. You know, every owner in the CFL has that, and has had Grey Cups in their cities, and continue to, and a new CFL franchise, which CFL needs a 10th CFL franchise, and that's one thing I should add to my last session about things that I would do if I was the commissioner. You need a CFL 10th franchise. Okay, I forgot to add that. Anyway, so because you got to get rid of all these bye weeks. You have to have an even schedule. You could start the season earlier, and the Grey Cup would be the end of October. Be perfect. Anyway, so they come back with 3 different proposals. One was with lawn bowling getting expansion, and actually the Lancers getting their expansion with their and with a turn, I guess, where they'd have to use land. I guess Houston would have to give them land from the Maritime Museum, give it to them. They'll to put a 7,800 or 7,000 soccer Derek Martin special CPL soccer stadium, and they're a tiny little Mickey Mouse little thing, prefabricated, and because it was going to cost like 40 to 50 million, but these prices now have gone what they want, because you're adding expansion for the Lancers and for the lawn bowling and Derek Martin special. It's gone up to like 100 and up to 130, from like 95 million to 130. Like, or I think the lowest is, I think there's one for 7,000, a little more than 7,000 Derek Martin special, little Mickey Mouse, with not 2 Lancers expansion areas, but 1, and no rugby on one of the, I think, cheaper models, and then on a bigger, like 8,500 seat, I think, Derek Martin special with a Mickey Mouse little stadium in the Wanderers grounds, like for rugby too. But they could never stage a big international soccer match with 8,500 seats. Are you kidding me? They would never even fill 8,500 seats there for CPL soccer. Anyway, this is what you're getting. 3 different models. It's all mixed up. It's all confusing. It's just a mess. They presented it a couple of weeks ago to the city. It was a very short presentation. They were incompetent. They didn't know what they were talking about. Darren Hensby, one council, male council has been there a long time, made a motion, and I don't think it even passed, that it should be built at another location and a lot bigger, and we need a bigger stadium than that. And this basically, you know, it's only for Derek Martin. He's a con man. And Steve Murphy, who is a friend of mine, but I don't like his radical leftist views when he was with, he switched him from conservative to a radical leftist at CTV or get fired. And eventually, because he was making too much money, retired him. But he does do some little, like, does a few little topics once in a while for a few minutes on CTV, and he did one. And I praised him for it, and he said that Halifax doesn't need basically Derek Martin special, like for CPL, for Derek Martin, Halifax Wanderers. They need a real stadium, a much bigger, a more like a bigger stadium, and more for just soccer, like a multi-purpose stadium, but a bigger stadium. And you know what? I give him credit for that, and it's good for him. Good for him that he did that, because that got a lot of coverage. It was on CTV, and it got a lot of coverage. But I don't think it matters to the radical leftists. You know, the group down there, the councillors, and then the South End radical leftists, and Derek Martin, he's a radical leftist liberal. I don't think it matters. It's just politically driven. Listen, these radical leftist liberal councillors down there in the city hall, they don't even get 2,000 votes. So that's why they put bicycle lanes in less than 1%, not even 0.5% of people riding bikes here. And narrowing your lane on a peninsula, the second coldest country in the world. How does that work? Hundreds of millions of dollars, like they're way over $100 million. And they're going to spend another 50 or more on bicycle lane. Like, and it's so, and same with this Derek Martin special. It's the same thing. They don't care what the majority of people want, because the majority of people in Halifax, property taxpayers and Nova Scotians taxpayers, they've always wanted a CFL model stadium, a 24,000 permanent seat stadium with all the amenities, okay, and expandable to 30,000 plus to host the first ever Grey Cup game in Halifax, which would be huge for our capital city, which our capital city of Halifax should want, and so should Premier Houston. And I told him that on the email I sent them. But this is what we get, and this is why they've destroyed our city. They don't care what the majority of people, because you know what? They cater to the few hundred of people that vote for them. That's all that votes for them. They don't even get 2,000 votes, and that's why they do it. So they'll get the leftist soccer. You know, they're not all leftists, but they'll get in the South End. They are, a lot of them, most of them, and they go to the soccer games. And they just want their few hundred votes, or you know, 1,000 votes, whatever. Maybe they'll get 1,000 votes, I don't know, and get reelected. But there's going to be pushback on it, because there's a heritage group that's going to try to sue them and stop them from doing it. And here's the deal: if you can't, like, it's an ideal location because it's right downtown Halifax, right, to the hotels, restaurant, and everything, and the waterfront there. So listen, if you can't. This Halifax is 550,000 people and growing, and it's 2025. If you can't wrap your head around building what you should be building there, and move the Lancers, because there's not enough room to expand, move them where they can have their own entity, where Atlantic Prospect Road, the exhibition grounds out there, is perfect out there. Lawn bowling can be moved in the Commons or somewhere else easily, and the hydroponics should go over to the public gardens where it originally was, apparently. Find some room over there or somewhere else. And what you need, then you don't need Houston. And I told premiers, don't give them the land for that Mickey Mouse little project. It's all politics. It's all liberal politics. Don't do it. Radical leftist liberal politics. And he better not do it. He's going to lose a lot of votes. I can tell you that way. I can tell you that much. And because I mean he is a super majority, Premier Houston. He's conservative, and he should want a CFL team, and he should want a CFL model stadium. Maybe go the same areas, even with the Exchange building. Maybe the good architect and a good engineer, they can build 22,000 seats there, expand them to 20, 30,000 people for a Grey Cup game. You have to have 30 minimum. They get a Grey Cup game, and maybe they can do it. Maybe they can do it there. I know they can use a track and go right up over the buildings on that side. And the Exchange is a problem from the 30-yard line down because they blew that, but they could put a double-decker over there, and they could round it on the ends and go up to 50 rows, 45, 50 rows. With, okay, connect the corners to the double-decker, and the other side connected to where they put a lower and upper bowl up over the buildings on the side, where there's buildings in St. Mary's Stadium. The football stadium is really, it's a field, it's not really a football stadium. There's just benches. It's terrible. But man, with the, you know, the thing about there, all the infrastructure's there. Everything's in place. All the money would go towards the stadium. Everything's in place there. They have medical rooms there. They have everything because of St. Mary's Athletics there, right? They have everything there. They have office space. They have a gym, a real good gym, and they're expanding it. They have new dressing rooms because they built a new rink there. A real nice new dressing room for football, and they could make a better dressing room. They could upgrade the dressing room. They have lots of room on the side where. The opposite side where the end zone's bigger, because where the old scoreboard is where the lounge is and the pub is. The end zone's not as big, but the other side, there's a part, they have all kinds of room to expand, dressing rooms there, but they have the medical rooms, they have everything there. Offices, they have everything there. Everything they need. So it would be way cheaper to build it there. And Premier Houston, I sent an email to you before and mentioned all this, but you need to get together with the new owner, potential new owner, which I believe is the Steel Group. And you sit down with this, like Johnson, the commissioner, CFL commissioner. And he has to do that. He has to get with the program because the CFL needs a 10th team. It desperately needs a 10th team. So if they try to pull this off, Houston, don't give them any money, okay? But the taxpayer is going to pay. Us property tax owners got to pay, but somehow get support. I don't know how you're going to get support from the feds with their radical leftist liberals. I don't know how you're going to do it, but maybe this guy's got deep pockets. Maybe there's a way of doing it. Maybe there's a way of doing it with the university. I don't know. Maybe you can get some investors. I don't know, but we need a CFL stadium and a CFL team, and we need a Grey Cup game here. And the deal would be the first 3 years, like in Ottawa, you have a Grey Cup game here. And I mentioned that to the mayor of Halifax and the city councils, all that. That's what has to be part of the deal like Ottawa did. You know? You would think that would appeal to them. No, 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 because all they care about themselves and the few votes they're going to get that they need to get re-elected with their Derek Martin special, okay? Because they know he's a just like them. It's a scam. And he's a radical leftist. It's all radical leftist, liberal driven. This whole Wanderers Grounds scam, Derek Martin special stadium con job to property taxpayers. They're going to have to flip the bill. We're going to get screwed, really screwed. Because what should be happening? They should, if they can't relocate the Lancers and long bowling at the Wanderers Grounds, because that would be perfect ideal location. Reconfigure it and build. They have lots of room then to build a CFL model stadium, 120 to 130 to 150 million, 3 levels of government sharing a third. Build it right, that would be the right location then, build it the right size and expandable because there'd be enough room to expand to 30,000 plus there and be awarded the Grey Cup game the first 3 years, the Atlantic Schooners are in the CFL. That's how you do it. And that's if they had a decent mayor and decent councillors with a brain, and they weren't radical leftists, right? liberals that are destroying our city and our world and our country here in Canada, which is, they've just already basically destroyed, same with our city, then this is what would be going on. This is what they would be proposing. This is what they should have been only looking at, because then it becomes a multi-purpose stadium, and then everybody can play in it. But you need an anchor tenant, a big, not like a CPL soccer team when he's only going to pay $1,200 rent, and probably if he gets this Mickey Mouse Derek Martin special, he's not going to pay much more, maybe $2,000. It's going to be a big con job. And what's going to happen when they go out of business and the Tide goes out of business, the women's soccer team, and Derek Martin's CPL, and league goes out of business, what's going to sit there? Well, high school going to play football? No, they won't be able to play football there because they're not going to make it big enough to play football in it. So there you go. They're going to really, it's going to really they're going to be look like a bunch of assholes. But you know who's going to get clobbered? I am, and all the taxpayers of Halifax. We're going to get, so we have to, we should be protesting this in the streets, really. This is just unbelievable. And Premier Houston, I wish you would get back to people like me, or have a coffee with me, sit down, because this got to be stopped. But the problem here, it's a radical leftist city that destroyed our city, and they keep re-electing these radical leftist liberals and mayors, and look what we get. Look at our city. It's a criminal hole, a druggy criminal hole is what it is. And now they're going to build Derek Martin's CPL soccer special at the Wanderers grounds. 8,000 seats, little Mickey Mouse, little tiny little thing. What a joke, what an embarrassment to our city. That's 550,000 people and growing. Our capital city of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Can you imagine that? I'm embarrassed, and I'm ashamed to be a Haligonian, and I'm actually ashamed to be a Canadian. But anyway, I love you all. Please subscribe. We need Peter Kelly back. He wanted a CFL team. He wanted a Grey Cup game here. He wanted to build a major stadium. Anyway, take care of yourself. Please subscribe. Send me some comments. Spider. Here comes Spider, CFL Reds Arm Mole. See you next time. I got a really good one coming next time. Okay? It's going to be really good.